Welcome to The Business Strategist, the show for CEOs and founders ready to scale fast, lead smarter, and build a business that doesn't rely on them. I'm Adam Strong, award-winning strategist, former elite athlete, international speaker, and 3 times best-selling author. After 3 decades in business, I know exactly what it takes to grow, scale, and exit with impact. Each week, I dive into real conversations with industry experts, bold entrepreneurs, and clients navigating the uphill struggles of business, giving you the tools and the strategies to create more profit, more freedom, and more impact. Let's get into it. Hey guys, I just wanted to grab your attention because we've just created a brand new resource for you guys called the Exit Playbook, how to shift from operator to visionary leader. Now, this was based on a podcast that I did a few months ago and is the leadership blueprint for being able to help yourself successfully exit your business. Now, we go into many different things. We're going into some of the common symptoms of why founders get trapped in operations and what to look for and the impact that it actually has on you. We also go into some deep dive exercises that addresses some of the fears, some of the reflections, also how to basically let go of some of the control that you have, but more importantly, how to shift your identity within your business and how to align your strategy to your exit and how to challenge your belief systems, more importantly. Listen, it is a free playbook. The link is in the show description notes. Enjoy. I think you're going to find it a really useful resource. Take care.
Choice Hotels get you more for your money so you can maximize any road trip. Let's get real close to hear the maximum sizzle of Comfort Inn's free hot breakfast. Maximized. Check into more. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
You're not burnt out because of your work. You're burnt out because your team can't keep up. That's the real reason. You're leading from one operating system. They're running from another. Now, today we have the amazing Rory Kilmartin, who is back to expose the hidden archetypes or archetypal natures and personalities that we spoke about a couple of months ago. And those are the ones that are silently wrecking your alignment, your trust, and your ability to scale. Now, if you haven't listened to mine and Rory's first conversation, pause this episode and go back and re-listen to that because there are some great golden nuggets from that episode. But if you don't know who Rory is, just a reminder of who he is. He's got 20 years of plus experience as a relationship researcher and is the founder of the highly acclaimed Archetypal Relationships Academy. Now, it's interesting because last time we spoke about a number of things. First of all, we talked about the 4 main archetypal concepts, which was around the wolf, the gorilla, the sheep, and the fox, how to become more self-aware of these concepts. But more importantly, we talked a lot about the power struggles between the different archetypal constructs. And in today's episode, we're actually going to go on a bit of a deep dive. I've asked Rory to have a conversation about the strengths and weaknesses of each archetypal construct, but also we're going to talk a little bit about how you can implement what we're actually talking about. Okay, so imagine me and Rory actually in the room. This is like a kind of a masterclass for you guys that are looking to grow and scale more than anything else. It was an extremely popular episode we did on the first one, and this is the reason why he's back today. So, Rory, welcome to the show. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, our first conversation was great, wasn't it? I mean, we covered a lot of groundwork, but I felt like, I don't know, there's kind of missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle because, I mean, we could have spoken for hours, which is why I got you back on part 2. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's like once you begin this dialogue, you realize that all sorts of doors you didn't know were in your mind start opening up. Doors that you consciously or unconsciously really wanted to find the key to open, to find out what's on the other side of it. And it's like the conversation has begun and the curiosity ramps up rapidly. So yes, glad we're back. And I'm so glad your audience enjoyed the first one. I'm so appreciate your feedback.
Yep, very cool. I love it. And for you guys, by the way, if you did enjoy the first episode, we'd love to hear from you guys. I think it's important to hear from our audience. I'd love to know what you liked, what you didn't like. And the videos also, the video podcast is also over on Spotify, and on YouTube. So if you want to go follow us over on there, then you're welcome to do so. So listen, Rory, I want to jump straight in if it's okay with you. But I want to kind of like, I suppose, carry on with the ideology of the archetypal constructs that you've created. And I suppose my first question is, how does this differentiate between, the Myers-Briggs and the E-colors and the disc and stuff like that? How does your research, how is it kind of differentiated? How can it be applied within a work setting? But more importantly, how can we use it as an advantage? What are the differentiations between what's already out there and what you've created?
All right. So two clear questions there. How is this different? The first thing is to understand that I'm a relationship researcher first and foremost, and I discovered these 4 operating systems or 4 archetypal natures or the 4 realms of the psyche, which only a relatively small number of people have discovered on their own. As if from inside the belly of the whale, I was studying breakdowns between good people who cared about each other. So once I began to understand, I discovered them in their immature, imbalanced form, the way people act out when they're triggered. And I began to observe all of these patterns, and that's how I discovered them. And I chose these animal names. It would be a mistake for anyone to think that that's in any way childish or simplistic. It's simple, but not simplistic. There's over 500 mentions of sheep and lambs in the Bible. This is an old language. Aesop was writing fables about these animal names 600 BC by his freedom. So these animal names reflect aspects of the psyche. So I discovered them in that way, and I discovered the dynamic tension, oppositionality between them. So I discovered these invisible forces that make us move and change our states. So the issue with a lot of the personality profiling is it's static and two-dimensional, and it puts people in a box, and it's fixed and to some degree rigid, and does not understand the dynamic potential between them. That's the best answer I can give you. Once you understand the power dynamics that arise and the nature of hierarchy inside understanding archetypal wisdom, as I understand it, it explains more than any other body of knowledge. It explains humans more than any other body of knowledge I've ever discovered by a distance. And that's a big, bold statement. And I slightly lost track of the second. How do we use this to our advantage? People who do not understand these 4 aspects of the human psyche, like a clock is accurate, a broken clock is accurate twice a day by mistake. We can be effective with some people by mistake and not be able to replicate it with everyone. Great leaders are effective with everyone because they already understand what their nervous system requires to want to cooperate, want to be loyal, want to move towards your communications, and want to essentially go to war with you. Because each of these 4 aspects of psyche, also, for those that didn't listen to the first part, the evolution has ensured that the 4 aspects of the human psyche that have evolved. And like we're born left-handed or right-handed, we are born with a strong leaning in one direction, 1.5 directions. And it shapes our entire existence. And it is an absolute paradigm concept of our entire world. And the entire universe is shaped by the absolute nature of this paradigm, this archetypal nature that we've been born into. In a similar way that if you're born left-handed, you want to do everything with your left hand. It shapes your entire perception of cutlery, books, reading, writing, the whole 9 yards. So when we do not understand that the headline is we're different. So those of us that do not understand that we're different and relate to all people in our business or family home as if everybody should agree with my worldview. Let's say my worldview is the wolf worldview, where everybody should speak up and be blunt and take feedback and be strong and don't cry and win. Because that's the only thing that makes sense. Not the only thing, but that is the headline thing that makes sense for wolves. Just just for example. So when you go into a business and you're all wolfing, and you need some people that are wolfy in sales, you need some people who want to win in sales, that they want to take the feedback, get stronger, not feel sorry for themselves because the scoreboard said you made 20 calls today and made no sales. The wolfy person says, okay, how do I win tomorrow? The gentle person needs 2 days to recover. The feedback is overwhelming and the sense of failure is too much. So for those that do not understand these differences, that you could learn it in just a few hours, certainly with me, just a few hours, and you can have a solid grasp of what I'm talking about. And it would improve your communication and effectiveness pretty much for the rest of your life. And in business, speaking to your team in the way that their nervous system wants to be spoken to, it can be the difference between massive success and abject failure. Really can.
Yeah, I agree on that. It's it's really interesting. I feel like, and we spoke about this actually off air the other day, about the real reasons why a lot of organizations and businesses, embrace a certain different psychometric profile, whatever you want to kind of distinguish that, right? And I feel like the reason I like the word wisdom, and you use the word wisdom interestingly, is that it is a concept. Whereas I feel like a lot of leaders kind of want to put people in a box, and they want to try to recognize, that within themselves and how it could. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if I'm making any sense, but it's kind of like you're kind of like taking this because wisdom is, let's define what a wisdom is, and which is defined by people's experience, right? It's defined by people's not just personality and the way that they communicate. It is not tangible. Whereas I feel like some of the other concepts that are out there, and they all have their own, I suppose, pros and cons, don't they? And some things work, some things don't work. But I feel like, people choose those particular concepts because they want to put people within a box or within a boundary so that it can become easily recognizable. What's your take?
Well, first of all, Aesop wasn't writing fables in 600 BC in TJ and the PRQY.
Hmm.
And that should say something. He was writing fables called The Lamb and the Wolf, The Fox and the Crow, The Lion and the Bear, the Lion and the Bear. And all of these fables are essentially stories that reflect the human condition. That's what a fable is. And then there's an explanation of it. It's very good for children. I was raised listening to Aesop's fables. They were reading them and then being read to me. The issue is that it's a moving feast. While we're born with this nature, which I sort of think of as our archetypal home, like I was born in England, as I think you were, that's my home. Currently live in Australia. That's where I'm visiting. And in a similar way, we have our sort of archetypal home, which could be creativity and foxiness or gentleness, sheepiness, right? But depending on the chapters of our lives and depending on the stresses of our lives, we can move around the diagram that I've created, but we can move around these natures depending on the stress. I'll give you a quick example, and I don't know if I'm repeating myself in part one. So I worked with a guy who's a pediatric surgeon, and he had a very imbalanced gorilla boss. He's getting his doctorate in pediatric surgery, which made him very foxy because there are these invisible forces. And so he was very foxy at work, but then he would go home and his partner was very wolfy. So he was very sheepy with his partner, and he was totally baffled because he realized he was smart enough. So I am like particularly bipolar. I mean, he was introduced to me and referred to me like sponge and thin. Just a few minutes, I'd explained every fight he'd ever had with his girlfriend and what was going on at work and why he wasn't crazy. And this is all completely explainable. And he came and did my programs. It's the best thing he's ever done. But the point is, no static two-dimensional personality profiling system is going to explain that as easily and as quickly as archetypal wisdom does. It explains how you can be a certain way with your boss, a certain way with your brother, a certain way with your wife, and and then a certain way when someone's upset, because everybody gets upset. The 4 archetypes get upset differently. So to understand the full breadth of our experience as human beings in all the relationships of our lives, it requires a 3-dimensional dynamic understanding of the psyche. Once you understand it, it explains everything.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Let's because we've already kind of moved into deep dive now, which is really good. I'd love to find out, just for the sake of our audience in particular, with regards to the different archetypal concepts, can you give us a kind of I suppose a breakdown of the different strengths and weaknesses of each archetypal construct, from a wolf to gorilla to fox to sheep? Give us a strength and a weakness. How do we compare, what are we looking for, whether it be with the people that we're interacting, the people that we're in a relationship with, or whatever it is? But could you give us a breakdown?
Sure. I think it's a better answer if I describe the agenda of the operating system, because that's what explains their strengths. So if we start at the top with the gorillas, they naturally want to lead. They naturally want to be in charge, because the agenda of their operating system, in a similar way, the agenda of the operating system of my iPhone is to run the smartphone. It doesn't have an agenda to explain itself. It doesn't have an agenda to make sense of the operating system of my Lumix GH5 camera. Its agenda is to run the operating system. So the Gorilla operating system is designed to think about the systems, think about the future, concerns with the future, make plans, and make timelines into the future to make sure the future works when we get there. So they're very good at strategy and vision, in the sense of vision into the future, not vision as in the sense of visioning new worlds, like that's the fox realm, but a vision for how the holiday's going to go, a vision for how we're all going to get to the airport with our boarding passes and our passports and our clothes. And the house keys are not going to be in hold luggage. No, because we've learned that lesson. And we know when the passports go out of date. So that's their skill. And as a result, they would like to be in charge. And their default setting is future focus. The classic sense of the story of the gorilla is they want to make sure there's enough grain in the barn for winter. Now, the foxes, they would like to have baking parties every day throughout the summer. They can't be trusted, and they're not to be put in charge. If you're old enough, I think, to remember the A-Team as a kid. Remember the A-Team as a kid? I loved that TV show. Just a fantastic TV show. So they're the A-Team because all 4 archetypes are in the show. Now, do you remember what Hannibal Smith said at the end of every episode?
Do you know what? I haven't seen that program in such a long time, and it was my favorite program.
Kids.
We were kids. Absolutely, 100%.
I love it when...
Honestly, I can't remember.
Love it when a plan comes together.
There you go. Exactly.
And you go. No, sorry to put you on the spot. Please forgive me. But I love it when a plan comes together. So he's the gorilla. He's the leader. He makes the plan. And his favorite line at the end is, I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah.
Because that's their thing. Planning, details, timelines, together the future. They want to make everything work for everyone, the group. Yep. They're not selfish. They can be, of course, but the essentially benevolent gorillas want to make everything work for everyone. So they're the good CEOs. They are thinking about the interconnectivity of all the different pieces of the system, and gorillas are competent in the external world. So the opposite of the gorilla is the fox. The fox wants to live in the moment. They want to live in a world that soothes wonder. Whether it's arts, photography, poetry, acting, architecture, writing, music, song, dance, new technologies, inventions and innovations. We live in a fox magician age. Very selfish, but not in a bad way necessarily, very self-interested. Lots of technology, innovation. It's a very fox magician age we're in.
Are they also very ego-driven?
I mean, they can be, but a lot of foxes are incredibly selfless because they want to bring new technology to the village. So I gave up most of my 30s, nearly in isolation. I certainly had no romantic relationships to figure out archetypal wisdom because I had to. There was no other thing. Like musicians have to go for their craft because money and fame and everything's irrelevant. They got to give their gift.
Sure.
So that they want to live in the moment. And they're very good at creating wonder. And they care about storytelling, comedy, laughter. Foxes are in the internal world, the world of ideas and experience. Gorillas care about the external experience, your experience at the airport, your experience in the car journey, your experience in the boardroom, your experience walking into the showroom. All of that is an external world experience. Foxes care about your internal experience. They want you to have wonder inside you that makes life richer. So the fox in your business is going to bring the humor. They're going to bring the lightness. They're going to bring not the warmth of love. They're going to bring the warmth of camaraderie. They're going to bring the antidote to stress is often comedy, lightness, just a cheeky comment, just to de-stress the anxiety of a situation. But they're also likely to come up with the creative solution. It might be, we've got to, I don't know, copy 60 files and scan them for some big deal. They might come up with a solution that saves that entire job, but ticks the box entirely because they think outside the box. So creative, they're great communicators, great storytellers. They're great making clients, prospects feel really welcome because they've got that smiling confidence to say hello and introduce themselves and meet you. They're not uncomfortable in communication, typically, most of them. The wolves, their great contribution is getting stuff done. You want to get something done, you call the wolves. You want to pack up your house because suddenly you've got a deadline, call the wolves. You want to pick up the phone and call every client you've got inside the next 24 hours because some news story is about to hit and you've got to reach out to them. You call the wolves because they're going to get the job done. They don't mind the grind and the graft. So they're going to get it done. The thing about wolves, best friend you've ever had, the worst enemy you could possibly think of. Don't cross them. They bring the loyalty. They bring the sacrifice. And the moment they believe that you've crossed them, possibly the worst mistake you'll make. So, pay them on time, tell the truth to them. But wolves are great BS detectors. If you've got to go into an important meeting and you're not sure if people are talking straight, bring in a wolf and just have them sit there and listen.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
They're walking BS detectors.
I love
They've
that.
been the bouncers of human history at the gate of the village. It's like they're scanning people for whether you're a con man, a snake oil salesman, you're going to come in and harm the women and the children, or you've got your mates round the corner in a bush ready to run out with their swords. Like they've been scanning humans for integrity for thousands of years. It's in their blood. The total opposite of the sheep, who their gift is more the center of the village. So if you imagine for a moment these four realms, where do they live in a classic village? The sheep are in the center of the village, where the fire is, where the beds are, where the food is, the kitchens. And they are there to create pair bonding with babies and the toddlers and the young mothers and the old folk they're not fit to, it's not their job anymore to go out into the fields all day hunting. It's the center of the village, the hearth, and they're very sensitive to all the interconnectivity of it. They care about emotional safety. Wolves care about physical safety. Sheep care about emotional safety. So the sheep's great skill is community, making people feel welcome, making people feel like they belong. They are the warmth of the company. If they're present, they are the reason why people want to get up on a Monday morning in winter in England and get on some overcrowded train to come into your place of work to help build your dream. It's because the sheep are there with a cup of tea, a nice warm, so how's your weekend? And you might think it's soft, inane, and nothing to do with the big goal, but it isn't. You gotta have a place worth fighting for. If the human race was all wolves, there'd be nothing for them to defend, nothing for them to die for. Every warrior in history has had the capacity to return home and find their loved ones injured or killed and be on their knees, screaming and howling in agony. The toughest men on earth. That's the reality of being someone that is that strong, and their job is to protect the innocent. So the sheep are the innocent, and they create the warmth of the hearth and the sense of belonging in the home and, if relevant, in business. Now, if you run a business that is pure money, pure grind, like a sausage machine, people come, people go, no one cares. I tell you a quick story. It may not be relevant. I worked in Selfridge when I was in my year off doing seasonal work, and this lady was retiring, and I was invited to her retirement party. It was Easter works. She'd been there 36 years. And I got down to her retirement party in the basement with a bunch of other seasonal workers, and the CEO of Selfridges, he couldn't make it, too busy. The area manager of the whole, he couldn't make it. The manager of the entire floor, like the director of the, couldn't make it. So this woman's manager, who's like half her age, was in charge of the festivities, and she was given a glass jug, decanter, some baby products wrapped up, because that's really funny, because she works in the baby department, and a check. And I could tell at the age of 18, and her husband was with her holding her hand. They could not wait to leave. The fact that no one really cared is still etched on me. 36 years of devotion and loyalty, and no one could show up and say thank you. And I'm not judging it. It just is what I observed. It is what it is. But if you don't create an environment where people feel like they matter, it depends on your business, of course. But for the most part, the sheep bring that sense of understanding that while we're not with our families, we want to be somewhere where we belong. I heard another story about a company. A friend of mine works for the company, and billion yen company. And the founder was the heart. And when he finally was asked to step aside, the company lost 90% of its value in the next few years because the heart had gone. It's like people showed up for that company for him because he created a culture where people mattered. And once he'd gone, nobody felt like they mattered anymore. So what you going to do? Be average?
That makes complete sense to me.
So in summary, all four matter. All four matter in life, in the village, in the home, on the rugby pitch, and in business. All four have their place. All each have their strengths. They also have their weaknesses, but all four want to be treated a certain way.
Yeah, that's a fascinating, and I love the examples that you gave, especially the A team, because I can definitely relate to that. And you're right. You're absolutely right. All four of them did have different archetypal, realms, if you like. They all had that, and I can definitely see that. What would you say?
Let me just sorry, hold that question. So a couple of things to note about the 18. First of all, Colonel Hannibal Smith was in charge. He was the guerrilla sovereign.
Yes.
Mr. T was the strongest and most dangerous, but he was not in charge.
No.
Because
I felt
He
like
wants
he
to
was
go to war.
yeah.
He's the wolf. Yeah, he wants to go to war. Crazy fool. If you need to get past a wall, and the only way to knock it down, you send Mr. T. If you've got to get over it, you're going to send Howling Mad Murdoch, because he's going to come up with some flying machine. If you've got to go through a door and speak to secretary or somebody on the front desk and sweet talk them and get through them, you send in Face Man. I, of course, wanted to Face Man when I was kid because he's the sheep. He's the communicator, the lover. But all four make the 80.
Yeah.
And Hannibal Smith is in charge.
That's true. He is. Mind you, just saying that, Murdoch and Face, to me, they're kind of like two foxes, but I suppose more Face is more round sheepish because he's kind of like more warm towards the women in particular.
Yeah, he's the charmer. I mean, you're right. Charming is both fox and sheep. Well, but he is more the connection-based solutions.
Yeah.
Murdoch is more the technological solutions. Mr. T is more physical solutions, and Hannibal's the planner, the brain.
Mastermind. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah, it's a great concept. What I was going to say, and you kind of you did touch on some of the clashes between, the different archetypal realms. I want to kind of touch base on that a little bit more around the common conflicts, the common clashes that certain archetypal personalities, if you want to call it that. How can we be more aware of these clashes, and how can we kind of solve them in a way that doesn't cause long-term harm to, say, the culture of a business, for example? Any thoughts?
A big issue is the agenda of each of the four drives their communication styles.
Yes.
But it also drives what communication they find really uncomfortable. For example, so for those that, if I haven't made it clear, gorillas and foxes marry a lot. Gorillas and foxes are the north-south, the polarity of north-south.
Got it.
East and west is the wolves and the sheep. The wolves and the sheep marry a lot. Gorillas and foxes marry a lot. Now, why does this matter? Because in business, the agenda of the gorilla is to make plans and delegate and make sure life works, relax and have fun later.
Yes.
Make the systems work first. Maybe we laugh and joke around and relax later when everything's working. Foxes are like, no, we laugh and joke and play around now because that's the most important thing in life, and everything will magically unfold perfectly. Now, gorillas, because they like to make plans, like to delegate, and they like to give instructions. And what makes their nervous system really happy is when people say yes and they do it. Because that's what leaders want. Now, the problem is, foxes, the primary agenda of the fox realm, apart from creativity, is freedom, the protection of freedom, the experience of freedom. And freedom is the most important thing to foxes. And anybody listening to this who's a fox will know that freedom is more important than anything else. So when anybody speaks with even the slightest hint of authoritarianism, all the nerve endings start jangling in the fox. So even when your boss comes in and says, right, we've got to get this done. We need this by 3:00. It's a perfectly rational, normal thing for someone to say, especially when you've got an employment contract in place. But it doesn't change the fact that the nervous system of the fox is freaking. Now, you do this for too long, especially if there's any intensity, like it's a bit stressful, it's a bit of a deadline, and they haven't agreed to this, it's going to cause major problems in the connection between the gorilla and that fox. I worked with two people not long ago. They had the same kind of entrepreneurial profile characteristic. They had the same label, but the boss was the gorilla and her lieutenant was a fox. And they studied personality profiling. They understood a huge amount based on the business they were in. And within 30 minutes I gave a presentation and a training to their team. Within 30 minutes, I'd explained the material explained every major breakdown they'd been working together for 10 years. And it's all because the gorilla did not understand, even though they studied personality profiling and had quizzes coming up the wazoo, they didn't understand the basics. It's like this operating system, this nervous system likes to experience choice. Hey, look, this is really important. Kind of need it by 3:00. Is that okay with you? Or would 3:30 work? Any semblance of choice and the fox's nervous system is happier. The gorillas like didactic. They like black and white, binary. It's 3:00. That's it. Not even binary. They just like it mono. Whatever less of binary -1 is, that's what they want. They just want their way or the highway. It's like, I want this. You're going to do it. And it makes sense in the world in front of it. It doesn't change the fact that they still have nervous systems. So another client came to me and said, why do people agree? When I have meetings, I tell people what I want, and they say yes, and then they don't do it. Can you explain that to me? Excuse me. And he was quite a formidable person. I said, there's a very good chance that there are some sheep and some foxes in the room. He said, yeah, some very gentle people. So they're just saying yes because they're afraid of you and they need you to stop being intense. So what do you mean? Says, the gentle people are so uncomfortable with intensity that they will, this is why torture doesn't work, because they'll just say anything to stop the discomfort. So they're just going to say yes to make you stop. And it's not even like it's a deception. It's involuntary.
Yeah.
So the people in business that are, you have a sense they're connection focused. They smile, they're kind and they're polite. You kind of have a sense they never steal from you. They would never want to get in trouble. They're essentially good people. If you come up to them and you're too intense, you can't guarantee they're going to be rational. It's not their fault. You just really can't. A lot of the gentle folk just can't cope with intensity and volume. Like, trying to explain, how do you get foxes to cooperate? You've got to give them choice.
Yes.
It's key.
Choice.
And I think I told the story last time of the belligerent fox child that wouldn't put their coat on in the hallway of the family home. Did I tell that story before?
I can't remember, but go ahead and do it again.
We had this client came to us. He lived in northern Sweden, not too far from the Arctic Circle. And, like, you have to leave the house with the coats on, the kids. It's kind of good.
Yeah.
I had this 4-year-old daughter that for 2 years had refused to put the coat on. It had been a war in the hallway. Family trying to leave, trying to make life work. And the 2-year-old, now 4, is not cooperating. So my colleague Daniel was like, well, Charles a fox. He says, I know, I figured that out. But she's still got to put a coat on. I said, but you're not giving her choice. Said, there is no choice. You got to put the coat on. I said, there's always choice. He said, why don't you try this? Turn around with a big smile, as foxes need to smile, and say, left sleeve or right sleeve? He called back 2 weeks later. He's like, are you serious? I've spent 2 years fighting my child in the hallway of my home because I didn't know that she needed choice. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, he always puts the left sleeve on first and then the right sleeve, and they're out the door in 3 seconds. And she's 2 to 4 years old.
That's crazy.
Telling the world, my nervous system can't cope without choice. It's the opposite. I'm going to do the opposite.
Yeah.
So
love that.
Now, how do you make gentle people, sheep, work for you? How do you get them to do what you want? You have to connect with them first, as long as time is permitting. You say, hey Adam, hey man, how's your weekend? You good? Great, I love the football. Hey, listen, I'm busy. I need your help with something. Can you get something done for me? Do anything for you because we're connected now. I'll do anything for you because we're brothers now. But if you walk up to me on a Monday and say, right, I need this, it's too much for the gentle folk. They need connection first, then they work. Foxes need freedom first, then they cooperate.
Got it. I was just going to say, it's like dangling a carrot and understanding what the bait is in order to entice them to move forward. Does that make sense?
That's the slightly darker way of looking.
By the way, ladies and gents, just for full disclosure, I don't want you to go dangling carrots around to see if that works. Doesn't work.
No, it's funny. It's playful. It's just understanding what the nervous system needs.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we invented manners because of nervous systems. We say please and thank you because if you go out of your way with somebody and you don't say thank you, you don't register that someone's gone out of their way for you, they're not going to want to do it again. because the nervous system doesn't like it. So we've invented a language, and we call it manners, to recognize each other's nervous systems. And manners are the universal manners. Everybody pretty much is irritated if you don't recognize that you've gone out of your way. Just expressions of appreciation are good for the nervous system. There are manners for all four of these archetypes that are unique. And it's just about understanding that gentle people want connection first. Then they're happy.
Yeah.
Agreed. So the opposite is true for gorillas and wolves. Foxes like humor. Foxes you want to walk up to foxes and say, "Oh, how's your weekend? Yeah. Didn't enjoy the football, did you, mate? No." And then it's like, right, we've got to get on with something. You're up for it. And now we can get up because there's some lightness, there's a bit of comedy, a bit of banter. Now I can really cooperate with you because I feel like you're on my team.
You're on my level. Yeah.
Gorillas hate that. You want to walk up to a gorilla and start telling stories and making jokes. So like, what are you talking about? Yeah, what? What else stuff? I don't want to hear your stories. It's like, what gorillas want is that you articulate the problem. Okay, so we need to pack up these boxes. We need to scan these files. We've got to be out of here by 10. Yes? Yes. The gorillas are totally set now. You understand the problem. You understand what we're up to. And we're going to get on with it. You can kind of be a bit more lighthearted with them after that.
Yeah.
And quite similar for wolves. The thing that wolves can't stand is waffle.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, so if you think of cold calling, the preamble before you get down to business on a cold call with sheep, that's the longest. They want to talk about their weekend. They want to find out, oh, if you sound like you're from England, oh, how's the weather? Like they want to have quite a lot of preamble.
Got it.
Foxes is second. They want to make sure that you're funny and lighthearted, not too serious. Otherwise, they won't buy from you. If you're really serious, foxes can't buy from you. Just no, they can't do it. They'll find another way. Because it's like they can't reward tyranny. And if you can't laugh, then you're close to tyranny as far as foxes are concerned. Now, gorillas just want to know that you're real and human. Yes. Are you David? You're Adam from this? Okay, good. And you having a good day? Yes. Great. Our business. Wolves, like, I'm here to win. What tool do I need? I'm building a deck. I can't cut the wood. You want this saw? Will it work? Yeah, this is the saw you want. Great. Here's my money. That's it. They don't need any cuddling.
Yeah.
They don't want cuddling.
They just want it as it is.
They want to win.
Yeah.
They want to get on with it. They got like 6 missions today.
Yeah.
You've got 6 missions. One of them is not pandering to your... Don't talk about the weather. I love talking about the weather. Tell me, it's a national sport.
Interestingly enough, I had an epiphany when you were talking, actually. And I want to share something actually with you guys. So for a lot of our listeners, and something that's really fascinating me here, Rory, right, is a lot of our listeners, whether they be founders or CEOs running small teams or whatever it might be, some of the conversations that I've had recently and understanding why so many founders and CEOs find it very difficult to be able to exit from their business operation, right? So they don't have a plan, or they find it very difficult to let go for whatever reason. For whatever reason. And I'm trying to really understand why this is the case. Is it because everyone is deemed as like a fox, or is everyone deemed as sheep, or whatever it is? Like, without trying to kind of like put people into boxes, I'm trying to understand, why is this the reason why, a lot of founders and CEOs struggle to exit from their business operations? Is it because they are, acting within a certain realm? Is it because they, and it kind of goes back to the whole ideology of you can't teach an old man new tricks, right? Because they've been doing the same thing. They've been working on the same operating system, but they haven't actually had an upgrade in such a long time, because they're such in a routine that their belief system is about, works. It has worked for me for the last 30 years, and nothing is going to change my mind. But again, that's the real reason why they end up being stuck and where they're at. I'd love to have a conversation with you about the reasons why this has happened. And from your research, is there any kind of collaboration or patterns that might help us to move us forward?
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Yeah. So a couple of things spring to mind. One is, if you get back to, again, it's the more we understand the agenda of each of these 4 operating systems, the more everything makes sense.
Yep.
If you imagine that the typical inventor founder, I heard this little clip the other day from Mark Cuban. He said something like, I hate going into business with inventor founders, but I love buying businesses from inventor founders. And what he's really saying is, I've worked with foxes before and they're a bloody nightmare, but I don't mind buying their genius products off them and running it myself, because he's an external world guerrilla wolf. If you think about it, the question is, how is it that some founders find it difficult to exit their business? Do you think you could have talked Mick Jagger out of leaving his band? If the business is the creative outlet of a creative person, you're asking an artist to stop painting.
True.
So it's like, this is the expression of their entire life agenda. If they are a person that is about connection, it's like asking them to give up their family. Owner of the business is perhaps not an inventor founder, but maybe they are a guerrilla owner running systems. You're asking them to leave. The sheep are asking them to, you're asking them to leave, because they're both, the sheep and the gorillas are both group interested. They care about the group.
Yeah. You're
asking the sheep to leave their family from a heart perspective. The gorilla is being asked to leave their family from a leadership perspective. Who's going to lead? This is the primary reason for my existence.
Yes.
So if a person's business reflects their reason for being, to leave that is essentially like the threat of empty nest syndrome on some level. It's, who am I if I don't have this?
Yeah.
And to find a fresh outlet. And some people don't want to start from the beginning again. Some people don't want to sell their business for X million and end up with X million, but no outlet for their agenda. Because for some people, their business is their creative expression, and without it, they don't know who they are. And for a lot of people, the idea of exiting businesses is a purely mathematical consideration. You have to get into the heart and the agenda.
I guess there isn't a magic formula. It's about understanding about what shifts we need to make as well. Because I guess with your archetypal realms, we act in different ways. You had mentioned at the very beginning when you had someone that was working in a particular realm at work, but then when they went home, they were acting very sheepish. That was a really good example. And I guess in what we're speaking about with regards to business, leadership, exiting and things like that, what we need to do in order to make certain shifts. But I guess the whole point I'm trying to make is self-awareness, isn't it? How can we make those shifts? Not saying that we must act in one more foxy compared to, say, more gorilla. I'm not saying that we should do one thing, and I'm not saying that we should label people because we all have choices. What I am saying is, how does one kind of shift from one archetypal, personality to another without it creating too many rifts, if you like? And I suppose there isn't a straight answer in it.
No, well, I think the first thing to understand is that a lot of it's involuntary.
Yes, okay.
We are not doing it consciously or on purpose. And the reason is because there are invisible forces, mechanisms, essentially, you can be the sort of the example I like to hear is a whole bunch of the generals in North Korea on their own patch are terrifying, formidable, brutal tyrants. But the moment they're around Kim Jong-un, they are foxy, sheepy, placating, appeasing, terrified little boys, hoping that they don't get dragged out of the back room and shot today.
That's interesting.
So in a similar way, some people might experience being welcome and appreciated and meaningful and maybe even powerful at work, but at home, they don't feel any of those things. Thus, their business is what gives them life. For some people, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
At home, it's where they feel loved and appreciated, seen, welcomed, and wanted. And at work, it's void of any of that because there's no heart in that place. I slightly lost track of your original question.
Don't worry, it was a little bit fragmented. I apologize.
Okay. Yeah, it's about moving. So, but sometimes the wiser we get, the more we understand, the more life experience we have, and particularly the more we study archetypal wisdom, which again does not take that long. And it's not complicated. It's just hidden. So you don't have to study a whole brand new technical body of knowledge. It's just really a conversation like we're having now. The more we understand these different aspects of the human psyche, the more we unconsciously, out of respect, communicate with people and spend time with people in a way that makes them feel fabulous in an effortless way.
Yeah.
Because I understand gorillas, like when I hang out with gorillas, I know what they want. So it's easy to just hang out with them. Like I employ 2 gorillas. They're absolutely fabulous. They do all the stuff that I don't particularly want to do. And they love it. They love the detail. And they have a meeting once a week that is just for them. And at the beginning of every business development team meeting we start with the left brain didactic stuff, because as soon as they have ticked off the questions and pieces that they need to understand to fulfill their roles, they can relax. Yeah. Now I can share vision and stories and talk about participants' results and what's happening for an hour before we get down to anything detailed. And their nervous systems get increasingly uncomfortable. So we talk about the non-specific stuff. We talk about the specific stuff first.
Yes. Because
it makes their nervous systems happy. And I want them to be happy. I can talk about the other stuff anytime I want.
It's really interesting. I actually had, I'm going to share a quick epiphany with you as you were talking, going back to the question. And I go back to what you talk about, which is archetypal wisdom, because we talked about wisdom as an experience. But from my perspective, wisdom is around embodiment, like who you become. Do you know what I mean? Like what's the person that you become? But more importantly, that stems back to what experience you've had, whether it be, and that we're talking about experience in running a business, experience in relationships, home, whatever it might be, but it's an embodiment. It's, and it's ever evolving. Do you see what I mean? Like the knowledge of what we're talking about is ever evolving. And what I love about it is that it's not tangible. You can't see. It's like kind of like the DNA of who we are as individuals. And that's what sets us apart. That's what makes us so different. Sorry, it was just a thought process that was going through my mind there.
This is how this works. Archetypal wisdom, which is my preferred phrase, is essentially this extraordinary intelligence that rises up inside you when you have a committed dialogue around archetypal understanding.
Yeah.
And that's what my team and I specialize in, creating the environment for this dialogue to occur. And the material is me sharing my findings, and my findings are the catalyst for this dialogue. Yeah. Once you begin the conversations, extraordinary, the insights. It explains your children. It explains your former relationships. It explains your childhood. It explains why you struggled with your sister. It explains why you got on so well with your dad, but really struggled with your mum. It explains every fight you saw your parents have. It explains every fight you've ever had. It explains why you have this recurring sense of dysfunction in your own life. It explains all. And at the end of it, you become a more compassionate and understanding human being that is capable of not getting the best, but from a work perspective, getting the best out of your team and out of your employees and out of your business partner, because you become essentially an agent of order.
Yes.
There's an ordering energy with the wisdom that comes. You're an agent of chaos if you go and speak to foxes in a way that doesn't work for them, because they have involuntary resistance to you. You're an agent of chaos if you go up to wolves and start being weak and helpless with them and ask them to do stuff that you should be doing. They're going to shout at you.
Yeah.
So the more we understand this, the more we become an agent of order. We become a better parent, better husband, wife, a better leader, better manager.
Agreed.
And the truth is, people find it easier to buy you, your services, your products, and your business when you can sit with them with this sense of essentially maturity. It's essentially what.
It's fascinating. I know that we're kind of coming towards the end of our conversation, but there is one further question, and it's more kind of guided towards sales and an example. I was actually having a conversation with a client the other day, and he's particularly good. He's a wolf. He's very good at sales. He's ruthless, extremely good. But the challenge for his business is that, you know, and sales is the lifeblood of any business, right? You know, without sales, you're kind of cutting like the blood off of the heart type of thing. And so he feels like he's like the star performer. And so the big challenge is that if there's only one wolf and the rest are all kind of different, they're a mixture of sheep and foxes and so forth, how can, for him, for example, what does he need to do in order to create more balance so that he doesn't feel like everything depends on him and the weight on his shoulders? Because obviously he's the founder, but he can't do everything, right? So are you saying that for that example, what's the solution for him in order to be able to scale his business more specifically? What is it that he needs to do? Does he need to go hire more wolves? What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't need to tell you that often the owner of the business should be the best salesman person, because nobody wants to sell a product and build the business more ideally than the owner/founder. So we all agree on that. But I think this is more of a systems answer than an archetypal one. If he is the sole rainmaker, then it's not a business engine, because if he's ill or indisposed, then it doesn't happen. So it's a systemology piece. He's got to find a way to replicate his sales without him.
Yep.
You know this. But it's no good hiring a sheep for that job. Because they're going to want to be liked more than make the sale. And you said he's ruthless. That's a word associated with wolves. Wolves will be ruthless.
Yeah.
You know, I told a story recently. This guy walking home, mid-20s, I think, and he comes across this house that's on fire, and he sees children in the window. Ruthless, straight up, punches those windows out. Reaches into he goes in and gets the children out. He goes back for the third child. He has to fight off flames and gets the third child out. And he's on the ground outside on the grass. And the paramedics come over and he's got proper burns. His skin's not looking good. And he's like, how are your arms? How are your arms? And he doesn't care about his arms. Like, are the kids okay? It's the only thing that he cares about. Because that's the wolf mind. I'll take the damage. I'll go for the win. And the win is protecting the innocent first, and everything else comes second. So it is the ruthless mind for sales. It's like, I'm going to pick up the phone 100 times today. I might only go anywhere with 10 of those calls. I might only be successful on 3 of them. But that's a great day. She can't do that.
No.
There's too much. There's too much disconnection.
Yeah.
They're going to want to have calls that go nowhere, but they can say, I had a great call, but just wasn't quite right. But they weren't really selling. They were just making themselves feel connected.
Yeah.
That's okay. But he wants to find another wolf ideally and train them and make sure they're on the right door. System origin thing. But hiring the right person for the right job is, as we know, devastating if you get it wrong. It should be no surprise to you that every member of my team is archetypally in the right job. Because if you're in the right job for your archetypal nature, it's very difficult to get exhausted.
Yeah.
If you put somebody in the wrong job for their archetypal nature, it's not their home. So it drains them.
Yeah. And there's so many examples of that as well. And I speak to so many business owners and they're like, have you considered like they're probably not in the right role in what they're doing? That's probably the reason why you're not getting the most out of them.
I had a client that's a lawyer and she had a small team of 6 and she listened to me do a presentation. She nailed her. She went home, got her entire team to do my quiz, archetypalrelationships.com/quiz. And then they got a sticker of their archetypal nature and they put it, just a small one, on the top left-hand corner of their screen.
Yeah.
She realized that there was a fox doing a gorilla job and a gorilla doing a fox job, and she switched those 2 roles. And the whole atmosphere in the office just jumped high immediately because they were doing the wrong job. She transformed her discovery calls with her clients. She's very wolfy. Instead of being wolfy, she found out what their archetypal nature was by asking some questions and just got a sense of them. She changed her tracking spreadsheet so everybody in the office knows what their archetypal nature of the clients are.
Mm-hmm.
So when they call, it's like it's John the Wolf. So they answer the phone the way the wolf wants to be spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
And when she used to give the clients updates, they were always wolf updates because she's a wolf. Now she gives all her clients updates the way their nervous system wants the updates. Her client retention has gone through the roof. None of her clients are leaving now, except their work is done.
Yeah.
She's closing more business because she's speaking to the prospects the way they want to be spoken to. And she got back together with her fiance, got married, had a child, lost 80 kilos, transformed her business, and it totally transformed her life.
Wow. That's crazy. That's a transformation. Pardon the pun.
Yeah, many
Love that. Love that. Love that. Love that. Now, what was I going to say to you? Just kind of wrapping up today's call. We've gone through so much, like literally the first call, we went through a lot. Again, we could probably continue this conversation for hours. It's really interesting because it touches on some of the interests that I have, which is around psychology. Because I mean, you're a researcher and in the world of relationships, and what fascinates me is about what people think, why people think the way they do, but also understanding, why people act the way they do as well. And what's the possible course of action of how to recorrect if they're misaligned. That really fascinates me as well. So I wanted to thank you, first of all, for this great conversation. Just a second one, what are you working on right now that maybe would help some of our listeners here? I know you mentioned the quiz, which I guess would be a great tool to be able to understand what archetype where do they fit in? Are they more wolfy? And that could, again, help a lot of leaders start listening into the call. Anything else that you're working on, or is there any other tools and resources that you could recommend?
Personally, my business is now really working on taking my material to a wider audience. I spent the last 6.5 years, 7 years, just working on the material. Because I'm a researcher by nature, you have to be dragged kicking and screaming out of my comfort zone. But I'm very much in this world of reaching new audiences. So thank you for this opportunity. The best thing that anyone that's listening could do is just go to archetypalrelationships.com There's a quiz, masterclass, opportunities to reach out to us, connect with us. If any of this has resonated on any level, act. You will not regret it. If you go to trustpilot.com and search for archetypal relationships, you'll find the people that acted, and it's the best thing they've ever done. It's interesting because it occurs like a soft skill, but transforming your family home, having the best relationships you've ever had with your children, and creating an environment at work that makes people want to go to work for you, build your business, build your dream. That's not a soft skill. That's mastery. That's a superpower.
It is.
Plus, if anybody has any interest in being an elder, being a good grandparent, being a calm, centered, balanced person for the younger people in their family, if that is of any interest to you, this is where the answers are. 100%. So depends what stage of life you're in and what you're interested in.
Absolutely. Love that. Well, listen, guys, first of all, I hope that you've enjoyed our conversations with me and Rory. We've gone through some really deep concepts with you guys. What I would highly recommend, if this does fascinate you, and some of the things resonate with you, what I would highly endorse you do, go back and rewind and listen to this. I'm a big fan of when we're talking about deep conversations and we're going into different concepts and insights, you will pick up golden nuggets that you didn't hear from the first time round that you will hear on the second time round. I can guarantee you that. So do go back, rewind, and listen to that. Second request as well is that if this is the very first time that you're listening to us and you have enjoyed our episodes, please do me a favor. Please head over to Apple, Spotify, whatever your podcast platform, subscribe, give us a follow, and leave a 1 or a 5-star review. We'd be super grateful. Make sure that you take action on what Rory has also explained to you as well. And for you guys that are listening, thank you so much. Thank you very much to Rory, of course. And take action. And hopefully we'll see you guys again back on the Business Strategist. Take care and speak to you soon. Cheers now.